to my right is an actor, but also an author.
Wow.
Yes.
Look at that.
I have the book in my hand right here. Joyful Recollections of Trauma. The author, Paul Scheer, is here on the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm excited to be here. What a good day to be here.
Thank you. Did you bring your bottle of Opus One to put down on the floor
I'm gonna have
during
it right
this
down
interview?
here.
Did you do that? Like a full LeBron move here, or what? What do you
LeBron
got?
bringing a bottle of Opus One. That's the last thing I want to do at a basketball game. Be like pouring out like a little glass of wine. It looks, no matter how expensive it is, it looks lame to be like, let's just sit there.
I don't know, man. He had me at hello when I saw that one. I mean, look at that. By the way, flanked by 2 bottles of water, so he's hydrating.
And a coffee.
Looks like some caffeine. It is a mixture. It's a witch's brew.
For every glass of liquor, you have to drink a glass of water.
That's
it keeps
right.
you no hangover.
True.
I mean, what do you think? Does this, like, to me, this is creating a scene. I mean, this is all LeBron wants to do, is just have a scene go on. I mean, this is like, he's taking up more space. If that was a normal person, they'd be like, sir, you can't have 10 bottles underneath your seat here. There's players here. Like,
by the way, here's the 2 things. Again, I can't get past the Opus One. I would treat the Opus One like Chris Finch treats his surgically repaired leg. You know, I'd be in the first row because I am not going to lose a drop of that thing just because somebody's spilling into the first row. You know what I mean?
I mean, if somebody got like Opus One all over them, like, you know, like Darius Garland was just covered in Opus One. I can't get this out. This is a yellow Cavs jersey. It's gonna stain.
That's right. It's gonna stain. Is there an official detergent of the NBA? Did we just stumble on a commercial?
I think that LeBron should have opened a new bottle of Opus One every quarter. Just like only enough for that. Check it out.
Like a flight. A wine tasting. He should have a wine tasting through all 4
He
quarters.
should have just brought a case of wine, put it under the seat, open it up. I love him. I do love LeBron. You can't not love LeBron, but man, oh man, that is a scene.
By the way, now that would have been a scene. He would have been trying to create a scene if he did, in fact, have a flight of wine,
Yes.
1 for each quarter. But why can't the man take in an NBA game? What's the
he's
point?
wearing
Here's
Why
the thing.
can't he?
I'm more concerned that he's drinking that red wine on those white pants.
Yeah.
But
That is a bold choice.
Bold choice, Cotton.
LeBron wants people to talk about him, right? I mean, I think that's it. Like his post-game, his post-exit interview was like, I don't know if I'm staying in L.A. Bronny's coming. We're going back to the Cavs. I think everyone wants him to go back to the Cavs. That would be the best narrative for him to retire in Cleveland. Don't you think?
We're going to miss him when he's gone, man. That's what I'm sitting here thinking. Literally, that's just what hit me when I'm thinking. Everyone says he's trying to create a stir. He wants to be talked about. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I have no problem with it. It is awesome.
One of the greatest of all time.
He should be able to go to a game if he wants to go to a game.
But I think he's going to a game for a reason. There's no reason that he's in Cleveland.
Well, his mom is there, and it was Mother's Day on Sunday,
okay.
Paul. Like,
All
I'm trying to
right.
connect
All
dots.
right, I like it.
He's
I
a
like
human
it.
being, is what
I
I'm
like-
saying. He drinks wine.
But
It's
his
very
wife,
good wine.
But his wife is here in L.A. Mother's Day did not spend. Are we breaking a story? Did LeBron not spend Mother's Day with his wife?
She was sitting next
She
to
was
him.
right next to him.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm trying to break a story. I'm trying to.
Tom Cruise going to the movies. He doesn't have to go to the movie theater.
No, this is
He
like
doesn't
Tom
need
Cruise.
to go to AMC. He's got a theater in his house.
I don't know.
No, I like that LeBron is out. I think that more players should be out. I mean, I feel like that, like, was it, who was just at the, like, I like when players are watching the playoffs. It's fun. It's fun to see him in the crowd. And I think LeBron being there, for me, gets me excited because I'm like, I would like to see him go to the Cavs, play with Bronny there. I think it's a low-pressure place for Bronny to play. I also think it would be just a great way to end his career. Start and end in Cleveland.
I think so, too. I agree. Or a great way would be to do it here in L.A. and win a championship for the Lakers and then stroll off into the sunset that way.
I guess.
I mean, that would be a way to go. But one last thing on LeBron. I mean, don't you think the players last night, if you polled them, they were jacked up that he was there, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the fans are jacked up. When LeBron is there, it's like the president is coming to your game. It's exciting. It's like, and he's going to take that attention, and we're going to look at him in a million different ways. Yes. But if that was like Benny Blanco with, like we would have the same, like the same thing.
Benny Blanco catching strays from Paul Scheer is not on our bingo card. But was LeBron wearing Air Force Ones?
He was.
Okay, so the president was there.
Yeah.
There you go.
Also,
you
though,
have it.
if you polled the players, they have to say, "Oh, it's so cool that LeBron's at the game." No player's going to be like,
it.
"Yeah, I don't care. I wish he would go away."
Wait, let me ask you the real question.
Because they don't. You don't think Tatum was like, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show him.
They have to say that.
You don't think deep down he really did think that?
I don't think they care.
I think that, look, I feel like there's a camaraderie off the court, but these guys are like, I'm bigger than LeBron. I want to be better than LeBron. I think on some level, right?
Right.
And so I do believe that, like, it's fun that he's there, but I think when LeBron goes, it's not like to support, it's also to create a little aura around LeBron. It's like, I think it's calculated. I don't think it's bad. And I think we should have more calculations like this, but I just think it's calculated. It's the same reason why, like, Luka shows up in a Camaro wrapped in like Jordan sneakers or whatever the hell he's doing. It's a scene. You're like, you want to do it. It's looks. It's Lexus looks or whatever. Like when they're walking down the runway there.
Yeah, I mean, right. Didn't SGA show up for the game last night looking like he was in the Matrix? You know what I mean? Like,
I love the way SGA dresses and wears his like clothes. He wore those like Mario boots at one point, those big red Mario boots. It's like, yeah, I like those looks.
This may be an unfair question to ask again, since I said it was unfair to ask to begin with. Paul Scheer on the Rich Eisen Show. What if Kawhi walked into the Malibu beach house of Doc Rivers all those years ago and said, I have no problem playing with SGA?
Oh, it's my greatest regret. I thought that for sure, all that they need to do is convince Kawhi to play half a season with Shai. That's it. Like, hey, look, I know you can't find your guy. It's rumored to be that, like, Kawhi wanted Jimmy Butler, right? And Jimmy Butler wanted to stay in Miami. So just say, play half a season. In the middle of the season, we'll figure out who your number two will be if you don't like him. All I would have wanted was that. I think that I know we put all in and we got that big trade, but man, I would have liked that so much more. It would have been great to see Kawhi and Shai.
I heard a friend of mine gave me an analogy the other day, and I'm sorry if I'm not remembering who it was, if that person's out there watching or listening right now, equated Paul George to Allen Houston. Which is great shot, can light it up, and can win a playoff game, can win a playoff series. But to win it all, ain't it? And I don't know if that's a fair analogy or not. TJ, you can chime in as well as the resident Clipper fan here.
I mean,
Allen
Paul George
Houston
is better than Allen Houston.
You think?
Yeah.
Ooh. I think that Paul George...
Absolutely.
I think that Paul George is somebody that I really love. I support him as like a part of the Clippers team. I thought that he had an exceptionally weak playoff appearance this year, and I thought that all the pieces were there to support him, and I was bummed about how he played in this playoffs. And that was, to me, a tough look when you're going to go into free agency looking for a max contract and, maybe a no trade clause or something like that. Like, I think that's hard. I think that like people always are going to crap on him, but I also think that his playoff performances are pretty solid. This year it wasn't so good. And I think that he carried the Clippers when Kawhi has been out. So I have nothing but love for PG. I just was disappointed with this year.
Yeah, it was my buddy Tom LaSalle, who's a fellow Clipper fan as well. I mean, he threw that one my way, and I'm like, huh. Because Allen Houston got the Knicks after Ewing got hurt in '99. To the NBA Finals. He really took care of the Pacers, and. So, I guess I'm slandering Paul George by saying don't slander Allen Houston. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
Paul George more accomplished, better scorer, more all-stars, more all-defensive. But when it comes to the playoffs, I guess they're kind of the same guy.
I mean, and I think that he gets his rep because, look, he has his podcast. He came out on the podcast and he was saying like, oh, we lost because we played too much like ISO ball. We didn't we didn't move it. The youth is here. I think there's a lot of excuses there, but you had Harden, who I think showed up in a major way.
No question.
A major way.
I thought it worked out better than I thought it would.
I agree. I think that when they put in Kawhi in Game 2, the reason why we lost Game 2 is because we put in Kawhi in Game 2. He wasn't ready for it. And Game 3, clearly not ready for it when you saw him hanging on that hoop and he couldn't even land on that knee. Yeah. I was bummed for Kawhi. I know he wants to play. I love the Clippers. When I really looked hard at those games, what I saw when it comes down to it is we didn't score enough points. When it really comes down to it, I was like, we didn't score enough points to win those games.
Paul Scheer here on the Rich Eisen Show. So the book called Joyful Recollections of Trauma, are the Clippers mentioned in this book?
They are. I actually, I have a special thanks to Steve Ballmer and the Clippers organization. Look, I am a diehard Clippers fan. It's even hard for me to come on here and tell you my honest thoughts about the team because I don't want to publicly crap on the Clippers. I'm disappointed by this season a little bit. I wonder what we're going to be. I think we are moving into a new situation, and I love the Clippers. I'm a diehard fan. I'll always be a Clippers fan, and I thank Steve Ballmer in there.
What is
I say thank you to Steve Ballmer and Ty Lue and the entire Clippers organization for making it all worthwhile. That's at the very end because it does. It keeps me going throughout the year. I love this.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ballmer is certainly as we're about to see the FX version of the story involving Donald Sterling. That's about to hit, I believe, top of June, right?
Yeah. We got Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill's coming in to promote it.
I'm bummed out about this. The Clippers can't get out from this like terrible cloud. You have a Lakers show called Winning Time. Then you got this show called Clipped. And I'm like, oh man, can we just get anything nice? And people come up to me and they're like, oh, what about your Clippers? What about your Clippers? And I'm like, what about everybody? I mean, come on. Like, no one's like talking about, oh, Luka's playing terrible in this playoffs. No one's talking about that. But I will say that I can't. Like, people want to crap on the Clippers. They want to.
Well, I was saying Ballmer's a perfect owner to turn the page to. Somebody who is engaged, somebody who is out of his skull in a good way, and somebody who is incredibly well-moneyed and has a sense of competition that probably is second to none, which is why he's got all the money that he has.
Yeah.
And so and I like Ty Lue. Obviously, there's a lot.
Ty, I think, I think the problem is like, how do you take this team to the next level? You have a lot of older players. Health. I mean, that's our thing that we've been saying for 4 years. We have the same problem. Health. And it's like, and it sucks. It just sucks. It's like, well, we never get to play a full playoff with Kawhi. We know that Kawhi can be lethal. We know that Kawhi and PG and James Harden had that like little run there where they were lethal. But when you look at Ant and you look at the team in Minnesota, you look at OKC, you're like, oh, youth is here, and we're an older team. And I love people like Terrence Mann. I like Brandon Boston. I like Bones. I like that youth core that we have. But I think for us to make a move into the future, we're going to have to. I think we have to find that youth, that younger thing, because we do have a lot of older players. It's like, how many more years do all these guys have? Russ, Harden, PG. It's like they're all kind of on the tail end, and that. While it's a great construction of a team, it's just a team that doesn't play that much.
Let's talk about your book, Paul Scheer. Why? Why'd you
Joyful Recollections?
This?
So for the last 14 years on How Did This Get Made, I've been telling stories about my childhood. And every time I do, they seem to shock my co-hosts, one of which is my wife, June Diane Rayfield, and the other one, Jason Mantzoukas. I'll be like, oh yeah, my grandma would tell me that story about like, the butcher who, if you answered the door when no one was home, would take you and then chop you up into chop meat. And they're like, wait, what? It's like, everyone knows about the butcher. And I would tell that story about like a mom buying chopped meat and putting together a burger, and then the burger looks up at the mom and goes, "Mommy," and they're like, what are you talking about? That is horrific. And I'm like, oh, that was just like a fun story my grandma told me. And so years of doing these kind of stories that just came up organically, people are like, you should write a book. And it's this kind of joyful recollections of trauma, looking back at these kind of like very pivotal, crazy moments in my life. And I think that there's a lot of stories you might know or think you know, but for the first time, I'm kind of telling a bigger story.
I love it. Where all books are sold. Check it out. You got a good story from any cameo from the league? From back in the day, your favorite story,
my favorite
NFL player showing up behind the scenes, anything we don't know.
I think
you got a good one.
The thing for me was that NFL players always came on and they were better than some actors that we had on the show, because I think they approach it like a game. Like you was like, all right, this is what you have to do. You just have to react like yourself. And like JJ Watt was great. Came on, figured out what he was going to do. Had to leave set in the middle of shooting. Like literally, we were doing a scene. He's like, "Gotta go, guys." We're like, "Wait, where are you going?" He's like, "Gotta go work out." So I never had done that before, where in the middle of a scene, a player's like, I got to go find a local gym and got to go.
Did his alarm go off on the phone or something?
It was just like, we were like, where's he going? It's like, yeah, he's got to get that pump on. And, and
he couldn't wait for an hour till the end of the shoot.
But, talking about LeBron, this is what I hear about LeBron. Like LeBron, an alarm goes off. He's eating. He's got to go do something. It's like, you got to get in there and just go, So, but every player that we had was really fun. I'm trying to think of Terrell Suggs, my favorite guy that we had on the show.
T-Sizzle.
T-Sizzle comes on the show, and it's like early on in the show, and they don't want to tell him what the scene is. They basically say, Terrell, you just react to Paul. He's throwing a party. He's going to tell you what the party is, and you just react as yourself. Now, I'm freaked out because it's my first year on the show, and the premise of the bit is I'm throwing a white party. Very similar to, what goes on in the Hamptons, or what the owner of the Clippers used to do.
Yes.
So a white party, right? So you have to be dressed in white. So Terrell Suggs comes, he's not in white. I'm like, hey, you can't come in. It's a white only party. And so that was the way that we had to start this scene with Terrell Suggs, right? And you saw his eyes going gunk, and then he figured out, and he was hilarious. And we had this like big long scene. I loved improvising with him. He just got it right away. And Terrell Suggs is the only player who's like, hey, can I come back and just shoot more? We're like, yeah, what do you want to do? We put him in promos because he was just down to have fun.
How about that? What was Marshawn Lynch like? Did he?
Marshawn Lynch probably is the most infamous cameo in the league history, because we shoot this whole show and we have this bit for Marshawn. Can't get in touch with Marshawn. Marshawn's not going to happen. We wrap the show. I am getting ready to get on a plane. I'm going to Europe with my wife. We're taking a break after the shooting of the show. I get a call the night before. Marshawn's in. We have to shoot with Marshawn tomorrow. I'm like, I'm leaving to go to Europe tomorrow. And they're like, we're going to get it done in the morning. You'll still make your flight. Marshawn is coming. So this whole crew, we've all been shut down for a week because the season was over. We rebuild the entire show. We get the whole set ready to go from Marshawn. We're on set waiting. It's super early. And then we found out Marshawn didn't leave his hotel in Seattle. We're like, what? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, no, his agent is freaking out. He can't get in touch with him. He's still in Seattle. We're like, what do you mean? And then this like Ferrari or some fancy car that I'll never be able to afford comes driving in. And who is it? It's Marshawn. And he was playing a joke on his manager. He told his manager, oh, I'm still in Seattle. Like, he had made it. He was on time, on the flight, but he just was pranking his manager that he did not get up that morning.
Oh my God.
Then came and then killed it and was hilarious. Well, absolutely amazing. One of my favorite players of all time. But it was like everyone was in such a panic. And his manager, like when that car pulled up and he got out, I was like, hey, I got you. Funny. That was funny, right? That was funny. And everyone's like, it was the best prank I've ever seen.
So you, for a split moment, thought, I just pushed my plans, or I might not make my European vacation flight with my wife.
Yeah, I mean, I also, I'm like, and for nothing, to sit in a parking lot in Van Nuys, like, to shoot this scene with like Taco. I will tell you, and this is we were talking about Bomber before, and
yeah.
I was shooting Serge Ibaka's cooking show. Yeah, you heard that right. Serge Ibaka's cooking and interview show. And my favorite moment from that was we have Steve Ballmer on the show. And Serge Ibaka is about to start the interview, and he picks up his card and he goes, Steve, tell me about Microsoft. And Steve was like, what? He's like, Microsoft, what is Microsoft? and that to me, I was like, this is the owner of your team. It's Microsoft. And then I was like, Serge, it's Microsoft. He's like, you wrote it weird. It looks like Microsoft. I'm like, yeah, it does technically look like Microsoft. All of a sudden became like that college graduation. Did you see that clip of the mispronunciations at the college?
Oh, yeah. It was like a Key and Peele skit.
Yeah,
it was like Balake, Aaron, I thought it was a joke. It was not a joke.
It was not a joke.
I saw that. Did you see this clip?
I did not.
Yeah,
no,
these people are coming up and getting their diplomas, and
a
their
person's
names.
name is Thomas Michael, and they're like, they're like Tomasi Mukulele. It's nothing.
It was like Adele Dazeem was getting a diploma.
I thought the
insane.
person doing it was having a stroke because it kept on happening. All the names were the most straight down the middle names. There were nothing confusing about it.
Confusing.
And the school was like Thomas Jefferson School, and this guy's name was Thomas Michael, and she couldn't even get that right.
It's insane. That is
right.
So how did Bomber respond to Microsoft?
He's like, well, I'll tell you about it. It's the reason why I own your team. Serge Ibaka was not a great one with the follow-ups. We did say, Serge, here's a question. Who's better to work for, Lawrence Frank or Bill Gates? And he's like, oh, Lawrence Frank, 100%. I mean, Bill Gates is insane. Then Bomber like, you go to clubs? Like, no, you got to follow up that question. How is Bill Gates insane? But that was fun.
Clubs, Microsoft. Oh my God, Paul, this is a delight. Thanks for coming, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Joyful Recollections of Trauma, where all books are sold out next week. We can pre-order right now.
Yeah, you can pre-order it right now. You
pre-order.
can get it. The audiobook, anything you want, you can get it right now.
Did you do the audio?
I did the audiobook, and it has a bunch of extra clips on it, stuff from my home videos, and then stuff from How Did This Get Made?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Good stuff, brother. Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming
so
in.
much.
Come in anytime when you
I would love it, yes.
Let's just chop it up
I love
whenever
it.
you want to.
I can't
Please,
wait.
that would be great.
And I'll just take this bottle of, you should have a bottle of
Yeah,
Opus
I
One, right?
usually have a bottle of premium wine.
What if LeBron is there to recruit Spider Mitchell to come to the Lakers?
See, why can't he just go to Mother's Day and
Do
then
you
say,
really think that? Do you really think that he just showed up?
I think he's in Ohio for Mother's Day and is just like, you want to go to the game? Who wants to go to the game?
Check Game Time and see the last second deal.
He came in on the first time out. He couldn't have gotten him more. Like, he came in on the first time out. Of course he wanted everyone to know he was there. He didn't sneak in. Come on, how many Cavs games does he go to?
He could have played the Imperial.
Honestly, he could have. Like I said, he could afford the Cavaliers' corkage fee. Just bring it in. He's bringing his own wine.
Apparently, Dan Gilbert hooked the whole thing up.
I'm
with him,
sure he
so,
did.
Oh man,
You guys are ruining our fun.
Yeah, you know what?
rocking.
And by the way, we need something to talk about. We want him to go to Cleveland. It'll be great.
But like I said, he doesn't have to do this. It's not a power play.
Oh, no, it's not
just
a power play. But I think the power play is everyone is talking today about that and not about how the Mavs blew it and not about how the Celtics look soft.
Nice. Says a Clipper fan.
By the way, and I love the Celtics, but they're looking a little bit like
we just do the same stuff every year.
By the way, the only power play was like, I'm going to show up in the middle of the first quarter timeout.
Yes.
And I'm going to have a bottle of Opus One wine wearing white pants and white Air Force Ones. Yeah. And that is a power play.
I mean, that is because one spill and then it looks silly.
Then he does, right. Again, Joyful Recollections of Trauma out next week. Pre-order it right now. Paul Scheer, good to see you,
Thank you so much.
You got it. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern for free.